At long last, the moment that everyone in the cryptocurrency industry has been anticipating has arrived. The judge in the dispute between Ripple and the SEC has now released her final unsealed verdict, and it is an incredible landslide victory for Ripple. This comes after years of ambiguity, conjecture, and drama in the courtroom setting the case. Not only is there a hidden clause buried deep inside the 100-page opinion, but there is also a single paragraph that has the potential to dramatically change not only the future of Ripple, but the destiny of the whole cryptocurrency sector in the United States. This is the twist that nobody is talking about. People were under the impression that this case was only about XRP for a number of months, but in truth, it was about establishing a precedent, which is a legal basis that dictates how digital assets are classed, exchanged, and controlled. Now, that precedent is considered to be official. Let's go back in time at this instant. For close to 4 years, Ripple has been engaged in a conflict with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission that has been extremely contentious. Through the use of XRP, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) accused Ripple of selling unregistered securities, threatening to label the cryptocurrency as an illegal asset. The ramifications were quite significant. The failure of Ripple may have resulted in the same destiny for any significant cryptocurrency initiative in the United States. XRP was delisted from exchanges, institutional investors withdrew their investments, and adoption was halted due to uncertainty. Because of this, the entire cryptocurrency market was surrounded by a cloud. On the other hand, Ripple did not back down. During the time that they were waiting for the courts to render a final ruling, they engaged in silent negotiations, appeals, and the formation of partnerships, and the verdict has finally been reached, and it is a total affirmation of my position. According to the judge's decision, XRP in its current form does not qualify as a security. Of course, that is not all. In addition, the decision makes it abundantly clear that the selling of digital assets on secondary markets, such as exchanges, does not constitute the sale of securities according to the Howey test. This single line completely alters the situation. This indicates that not only XRP, but also assets such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and a great number of others are now operating within a legal framework that is crystal clear. At long last, the cloud of regulatory uncertainty that has been suffocating the cryptocurrency market in the United States has lifted. On the other hand, the buried clause is where the true story is, the one that the mainstream media is not covering. The members of my legal team went over the entire judgment line by line and discovered something that was buried deep within the procedural part. Ripple's right to function as a liquidity service provider for digital asset exchanges is established by a clause that is in accordance with the existing banking law in the United States. To put it another way, the court did not merely absolve Ripple of any illegality, rather it acknowledged the company's presence as a genuine member in the financial infrastructure. Ripple's integration with the banking system is effectively given the go-ahead by this legal validation, which paves the path for institutional adoption on a scale that has never been seen before. If you are familiar with the methodology behind legal precedent, you are aware of how monumental this is. As soon as a federal judge establishes a precedent that is legally binding, subsequent cases come after it. It is the reference that is generally accepted. In light of this, any future legal action taken against cryptocurrency companies can use this case as evidence to demonstrate that digital assets such as XRP are valid, transferable, and within the law already. The domino effect is starting to take place. Almost immediately after the decision was handed down, prominent financial institutions began disseminating internal documents that provided an analysis of the ramifications. Certain parties have already started the process of resuming conversations with Ripple regarding settlement corridors, partnerships, and liquidity integrations, which had been put on hold ever since the starting of the litigation. Rather than being a rumor, this is actually taking place. There was a significant increase in the amount of activity on institutional wallets in the 48 hours that followed the verdict. According to data from blockchain tracking companies, Whale Alerts have documented the transfer of billions of XRP from cold storage to wallets that are now in active custody. In the retail industry, this is not fear of missing out FOMO, but rather strategic positioning by the very entities that have been waiting for this green light for years. So, what transpires after this? Every major bank, fintech company, and payment provider that has been waiting on the sidelines now has no more reasons to make because the legal overhang has been totally eliminated. They are not restricted in their ability to use Ripple's on-demand liquidity infrastructure to integrate into the market. The decision to start sourcing XRP as a component of their liquidity portfolios results in an immediate problem in the supply of the cryptocurrency. Keep in mind that the supply of XRP going around is limited. The amount of liquidity that is accessible on exchanges will decrease as more institutions enter the market. Individuals that own retail cryptocurrency will find themselves in the midst of the most explosive supply shock in the history of cryptocurrency. The consequences of the price are unfathomable. Once upon a time, analysts expected a moderate growth rate, but now they are revising their projections upward. There is a way up in the event that global settlement networks start adopting XRP as a bridge asset on a large scale and institutional capital flows into the market. The estimates of $10,000 per XRP will no longer sound absurd. Indeed, from a mathematical standpoint, it seems reasonable. Give it some thought. The annual volume of global cross-border payments is approximately $156 trillion. The valuation models will rise if even a small portion of that flow is captured by XRP, and now that Ripple has been officially cleared to operate within the jurisdiction of the United States, the floodgates of capital are ready to open. Nevertheless, in spite of this historic judicial triumph, the mainstream media either does not comment or dismisses the controversy, with the exception of surface-level recaps. CNBC, Bloomberg, and Reuters hardly ever reference the verdict. Why is this? Mainly due to the fact that they do not desire the average investor to comprehend what has just taken place. It is not informed accumulation that they seek, but rather panic selling. Instead of your confidence, they are interested in your money. Before each and every major market breakthrough, this is the same psychological game that is played: the suppression of positive news, the amplification of uncertainty, and the intentional accumulation of people who are in the know are all things that you should avoid falling for. Ripple's chief executive officer, Brad Garlinghouse, issued a brief statement shortly after the verdict, describing it as a defining moment for the digital asset ecosystem. However, what he did not say publicly, and what insiders are saying privately, is that Ripple's next step is already in the process of being implemented. The cryptocurrency Ripple is reportedly getting ready to submit an application for a banking charter in the United States, taking advantage of its newly acquired legal status. As reported by a number of industry sources, Ripple would be one of the first blockchain-based institutions to receive regulatory clarity as well as a federal license to provide liquidity and settlement services. If this were to occur, in the event that this occurs, XRP will not only be a cryptocurrency, rather it will serve as the connectivity point between the previous monetary system and the future one, for the purpose of facilitating smooth movement between networks. Every digital currency issued by a central bank, every tokenized asset, and every digital security will require a bridge. It was precisely for this reason that Ripple's technology was developed, and at this point there is no legal obstacle standing in their way. There is already a reaction taking place behind the scenes from global institutions. Ripple has been approached by central banks in Asia, the Middle East, and Europe in an effort to investigate the possibility of interoperability with CBDC systems from these regions. The concept that Ripple has developed has previously been mentioned by the Bank for International Settlements (BIS) as a possible foundation for the integration of CBDC across international borders. That is not a hearsay. It is established in their study papers that are available to the public. The United States ruling has just given them permission to move forward without worrying about facing legal repercussions. We are currently observing a pivotal moment in the history of finance, a transition that occurs only once every generation. A rippling effect is not the only effect of the court's decision. Within the context of the upcoming global monetary system, it effectively legitimizes blockchain as the cornerstone for the system. However, the ramifications are not limited to XRP alone. Ethereum, exchange-traded funds, ETFs, stablecoin regulation, and even tokenized treasury systems are all made possible as a result of this. It is now possible for the entire digital economy to stand